Giggity, giggity, yeah.
You've done a lot of voice acting, obviously, for television, but you've also done it for video games. Is there a difference between the recording process or, like that?
Yeah, there's, it's getting to be a little bit closer in some of the ways they do games now, but for the most part, in a animated series, it's like doing a radio show. We call it radio recording, in fact. We all have our scripts, and we act together like we're doing, but we're reading our scripts as we do it. We're doing scenes. In a game, a lot of times you go in and you don't know what level it is that you're doing, and you're not sure exactly what's going on, so we'll give you just a sheet full of lines, like say 30 lines a page. And you'll do that one line 3 different ways. So 30 lines turns into 90 lines, because you're doing them 3 different ways. And so it can be really rough on your vocal cords. That actually video games, especially Chaos, is really hard for me in Skylanders, because there's like the same thing, but there's 3 like paragraphs that I say that I have to do in a row. So I'm doing like 3 paragraphs in a row and then doing the next line. So it's a little more grueling. Yeah. Yes?
What advice would you give for anyone who's aspiring to become like a stage actor?
A stage actor? Start with acting classes. That would be the first way. And then just even when you're not on stage, read a lot of plays. I love reading plays. And then you'll start to like develop this love of theater in these pages. And go to a lot of theater. That would be what I would suggest. Yeah. Yes?
Do you prefer reading over television?
I prefer, there are certain things I love. I love the immediacy of theater, because you get the reaction right then and there, because as you can tell, I'm very shy in front of an audience. But I love that aspect of it. I love the excitement of rehearsing something and then finally doing it. I did a play just before the holidays this past year, where I played 6 different characters at once, and it was a 2-person play. And that was really hard. And then before that I did a play where I had to memorize a 31-page monologue. And that took a long time. My whole thing was a full half hour, yeah.
You had a recording?
Well, that was on stage. And then as far as recording versus being on camera, I enjoy voiceover immensely, because, the sessions are a lot less grueling than being on the set. So I like that. But I like I like that you reach a large audience with a motion picture. Like I just did like one quick scene in Crazy Stupid Love, and people were coming up to me for months going, "Oh, I saw you." It's like, wow.
Yeah. No, but for that scene that you told me that you're doing 6 different characters.
Yes.
So you were like running on and off the stage, like changing.
I actually would just change like no, I would actually change just well, does anyone watch Orphan Black? I love that. That's one actress doing all those characters, and she, to me, is like amazing. I bet you she wins the Emmy Award this year. But no, I would just have different affectations, like, because I've also played women. Oh no, I didn't. That was my weekend. No, I played a woman, and then the voice changed. So it's one of the reasons they got me is because I could do different voices as I was doing it. But that's how it would be. It's like I would talk, and suddenly I would change attitudes. Because you're like, no. It was like Billy, So like go in between
awesome.
things. Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, you said you read a lot of plays. What are some of your favorite playwrights, and what are some of your favorite plays?
Favorite playwrights would be I love Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman. I love that. I love it most. I also love Tennessee Williams. Those are American playwrights. I like British playwrights. I like David Hare. I like Tom Stoppard is just my kind of craziness. I also like Christopher Durang for American playwrights. Classic-wise, I like this guy, Billy Shakespeare. He's good. He's like, "You better not to be dead." And I'm wondering if we can turn the air conditioner even off in here. It's feeling really like, is it really hot?
It's cold over there.
Is it cold now?
If you ask, there will be 50.
No, I'm saying no. It's boiling in here. Anyone else hot in here?
Yeah.
Or it's just me. All right. Okay. Is anyone who's hot? Okay. So you all have questions. Let's. Yes.
After you come on set, they hear you take on the persona of one of your characters. how often is it that you and this new character that you portray, and they hear you, do you end up changing the script because they hear you and they go, oh no, we want to hear you say this.
Well, it's funny. I just had this conversation recently. A character is never done. You know what I mean? Because like we as human beings are never really done until we're done. So as a show evolves, especially in animation, the character evolves. So if you look at Billy from the beginning episode, Billy was just a regular kid who didn't, it started out as like, he's playing, in the very first episode, he's playing with his army soldiers, like, hold your position, boys. And then Mandy comes up and then melts him with a magnifying glass. And Billy's like, oh, hi, Mandy. It's Mr. Snuggles' birthday. Totally normal, innocent kid. That's how he starts out. This is how Billy ended. What are you doing there? Angry Beavers is a perfect example of how things change. Because who keeps going in? Stop that. I was obsessed with Glenn Ross, the movie. So I used to love the Jack Lemmon character. So I would come in and I would go, I said 10, you said no, you said 20, I said fine, give me those leads, I need those leads. Well, Daggett became that. Daggett became Jack Lemmon for like 5 or 6 episodes because that's where my head was. And if you watch the episode where we're selling the chocolate bars, and Norbert's eating them and getting fatter and fatter, we do the last scene of Glenn Ross, where I come in and do Jack Lemmon. I go, hey, put my name up on that board, Norbert. And he's like, go to lunch, Daggett, which was what Kevin Spacey says to Alan Arkin. Go to lunch, Shelley. Go to lunch. So that I became Jack Lemmon for a while. Then I was Bob Hope every now and then, which is if you hear every now and then you'll hear Daggett go, hey, isn't that wild? You know? That was Bob Hope. One of the producers leaned over to the creator and said, is he ever gonna do Daggett again? That's, I improvise a lot. My synapses constantly are firing. Invader Zim, it wasn't the same because Jonah and I had a different take on what he thought Zim would be like, and mine was different, but he liked what I was doing with it. But what we both agreed on was the the up stuff. He loved that. That's what he wanted to make sure was in there. So he goes, it wasn't what he had originally anticipated, but he liked what I was doing with it. As far as improvising, most of our improvising on Zim happened when we got the footage back, and there was animation going on with no words. So that's why you see Zim in the background and all of a sudden he's jumping around. Well, all of a sudden you start hearing, over here, over here, over here. That stuff we made up on the fly.
Awesome.
But Billy and Mandy, Maxwell Adams was just really, really generous to me. I actually wrote 2 of the episodes of Billy and Mandy. I wrote
Keeper of the Reaper?
Keeper of the Reaper with my wife and Carl Greenblatt, who created Fred Fredberger for that show. The story was our idea. And the other one was the Bad Luck Ghouls when they're on the baseball team. And Billy doesn't know that it's Mandy because she has a hat on. So she's Manfred when she has the hat on. So Billy's like, hey, what's going on, Manfred? And she would take off the hat and go, Mandy, girls can't play baseball. And she put the hat back on. It's like, oh, hi, Manfred. So that was my story. So we did a lot of improvising on that. I would constantly be pitching ideas to Maxwell Adams about the show. But my favorite improvised scene was, did anyone see The Big Boogie Adventure?
Yeah.
So we get to the song, Scary-o, scary-o, I'm skipping a dooby-do. Scary, scary, scary-o, I'm skipping a dooby-do. Right? So they get to this break, and it's like this 80s screaming guitar. And they brought in a guy to do the, the high 80s type break for that. And I said to Maxwell Adams, I said, Billy should be doing that. Billy should be singing that. He goes, okay, well, we'll do it both ways. And he says, okay, and it was almost lunchtime. We weren't getting to it. We're gonna break for lunch. He goes, okay. Max says, okay, you give it a shot. You do the thing. I'm like, okay. So I do the song, I'm not scared. So it suddenly becomes, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm just really, really hungry. I want a sandwich. I'm really hungry. Because I was starving from lunch. And that's what makes it into the show. Because that's what Billy would say in the middle of that. I'm not scared. I'm just hungry. Yeah.
But do you feel like you made a connection with any of your characters as you've been doing the voice acting?
Yeah, all of them. You know, I kind of live those characters while I'm doing them. Not like out of the studio, but it's easy to jump into them again. Yeah. Yeah.
Was there an Invader Zim episode that was basically written and just never done? That you really
We had 2 episodes that we recorded that were never animated. That's because we just kind of cut right in the middle of our pickup. Season 2. We never even got a full season 2.
Hello?
How's she doing? Why don't you tell us who you're talking to? We're not disturbing your phone call, are we? Don't worry, I got all the time in the world. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye. Sorry to bore you. That's fine. Oh, Invader Zim for sure. I mean, we never finished that show.
That was the very bad.
We never finished that show. We believe me. Well, we don't own it. Nickelodeon owns it. Yeah, well, we don't own that either. Nickelodeon owns it.
I heard there was a lot of episodes of Invaders that were already written and recorded. Which one of those do you really want to get released?
I don't know, because they were all brilliant. But I do have one for the Angry Beavers. We had one that we recorded and never got animated. It was awesome. It was a musical episode. All musical. And I sing all the lead. It was called Rats the Musical. And Daggett comes back from this musical and he's telling Norbert the musical, the story of it. So he decides to perform the whole musical for him. And there were songs written and recorded. One of them was, Rats, I've got the plague, it's in my nose, it's in my legs, my eyeballs are swelling, my tongue is, and it went on and on and on. And there was one about the little flea. It's about the rat that brings the bubonic plague to London. And I play all the parts, but my favorite was the flea that climbed on the back of the rat. And we recorded the most wonderful songs for it. Keith Kachorik wrote those, and we never got it animated because it was massive. But we recorded all the music for it. It was awesome. Yes?
What was the first role that you had in your voice acting that you felt that you really made?
The very first job I ever had doing voiceover was I was in a Chevy radio commercial, and all I said was, "Bye, Dad." Bye, Dad. It's like a teenage. The first animated job I ever had was on a show called Prince Valiant. I was a guest star on that. I played a shipmate pirate. And then from there I went right into the Angry Beavers. I mean, I was really lucky because the Angry Beavers they've been auditioning for like a year or so, and I walked in and I was really lucky I got that job. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
On the topic of that musical episode you guys forgot to do, was there anything cut from your show that was budgetary or censorship-wise?
No, you know, Ricky and I talk about this a lot. Like on like in Angry Beavers, we weren't allowed to say "shut up." So there's a scene where we go bowling, and Norbert would say "shut up," and we had to change it to "hush up." So we changed to "hush up." But on Invader Zim, we weren't allowed to say "underworld."
What?
We weren't allowed to say "underworld." So Joan, to his credit, says, "I am from the place below the overworld." That is creative. So that only helped us.
Yeah, but you got away with a lot on Invader Zim. I mean, as a child, I was completely freaked out by Dark Harvest.
That is one of my favorite episodes ever. When Zim is sitting there like, "You speak crazy talk, Earth boy." One of my favorite scenes ever. That he's just a triangular mound of organs, and the intestines are just hanging out of his mouth.
I used to show my mom that that episode, and she would be like, "How can you watch this?" I'm like, "Cause I loved it."
I loved it. Then in his head, he put one of those cow.
Can you sing a stereo song?
Stereo. I'm not scared to play it though.
I was actually having a bit of a debate. In Zim Eats Waffles, like they bring out the kid with the
Yeah,
giant-
bring me a bucket. Yes.
I love that line. And so when they bring the kid with the giant probe in his head, was that probe like shocking his nervous system to keep him happy, or was he just so happy and they're trying to figure out why was that? Have you ever figured?
Yes.
It was it's the latter?
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
What do you think would have been a good ending to Invader Zim?
I take over the world and deliver it to the tallest.
For real, man.
Right?
That's the point.
Yeah. And then I remove Dib's big head. Yes. Want to hear my Dib invitation?
Yes.
Andy hates when I do this, but here it is. Right? Not this time, Zim! Yes.
I think I was stupid question, but what video games do you voice?
I do Orthopox and Destroy All Humans, which is Cryptosporidium. I do Raz and Psychonauts. I do Chaos in Skylanders. I do the Zony in Ratchet and Clank. I do Pollux in Ratchet and Clank. I do Stuart Thurgo in Ratchet and Clank. I do the Fell Imp in World of Warcraft, the Fire Imp. I do lots and lots. I'm in Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. I'm Soldier A, voted most soldier most people want to kill. Yes.
What is the most fun thing about being a voice actor?
The money.
I agree.
Besides the money, more money.
Besides the financial aspect.
Yeah.
The cars and houses.
Don't forget the supermodel.
And the supermodels. I keep them in my pocket at all times.
Yeah.
You ladies all right in there? You having a party? Yes.
How do you feel about Nickelodeon changing like live action and getting rid of the cartoons like putting on separate channels?
You know, it's all a cycle. It's all a cycle because you notice now Disney is going back to more animated things. So it's just been that way since the beginning of time.
It just hurts the kids.
Well, you know, the thing is that everything is a cycle. Like, you know, you get to like this, like, we don't want any cartoons, we want all real voices, natural. And then eventually they come back to the wacky stuff again. And TV stuff, it's the same thing. Al Pacino.
Man, that'd be sick. In Scent of a Woman with Invader Zim.
Hoo-wah! Yeah, well, Daggett does that also in the show.
Wait,
Everybody ever remember Daggett going, hoo-wah?
For Al Pacino or because?
Because of Al Pacino, yeah.
Wow.
I love Al Pacino, absolutely.
I don't know if anyone asked this question yet. I just got it here.
Yeah, they did. Next. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Have you ever tried pitching an Invader Zim sequel to Nickelodeon?
They, you know, several years ago, about 3 years ago, Jonan was in meetings with Nick Toons to do Zim on a less expensive level because we were the most expensive show in the history of Nickelodeon. Our show was like $500,000 an episode. We had 3D in our original episodes. None of the other shows had three-dimensional stuff.
Oh,
So
right, like the tallest.
the tallest, all that stuff, all the battle scenes, the planet jackers. All the Zim's Adventures in Space were all 3D. But they, in the end, it just fell apart. We were going to do it, but they were going to be more story-driven, more character-driven, and less action stuff, which was okay for all of us because the story stuff is really funny to me. You know, like I like Hamstergeddon I loved Ultra. But there's always hope, you know. I mean, you know, ultimately everyone asks, well, why did they cancel it? Why did they cancel it? The fact of the matter is that our ratings were horrible. We had horrible ratings.
No way.
Yeah, because, you know, back then they were only like really demoing 6 to 11-year-olds. But our core audience, you know, Jonan's core audience, were, you know, 13 to a million. That 1 million-year-old guy, he was cool. Michael Corleone in The Godfather.
Have you ever wished that Invader Zim was put on a different channel instead of Nickelodeon, maybe like an MTV to...
I only wish that when the show was canceled. But at the time, Nickelodeon was the place to be because they were putting money into a lot of like high quality production. I mean, the great thing about Cartoon Network, which I love, is that they picked up a lot of episodes at one time. Their shows, they didn't spend as much, but they were great quality written shows, you know?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is your favorite Invader Zim episode?
I like Rise of the Zit Boy. I like Pasturio. I like Walk of Doom because I like that Zim and that girl is selling chiclets at the end in Mexico. That's cool. I like a lot of the episodes, but those are two of my favorite. I like Saucer Morons also because I am Secret Agent Man! Secret Agent Man, it was just Gurr, you know, dressed as...
I am government.
I am Government Man, yes, Government Man, yes.
Did you ever do a role that you regretted?
Not really. I've had jobs that were hard on my throat, like Concho Man, Zatch Bell, I did the first season of. That was a really hard one. Yeah.
How did they come to you about the cancellation of the show?
We had just finished recording an episode, and Jonan and I were called into the executive producer's office, and Jonan says, come in. We closed the door, and Jonan said, we're done. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they just canceled us. I said, what? He goes, no. They said, that was it. We're done. We were scheduled to record the very next week. No more. Which kind of sucked, because they had picked us up, and you plan on that whole season, to pay your bills. And so I went out with Jonan and our executive producer, and we told the whole crew, and that was like one of the hardest days of my life because they were just as devastated as the rest of us because they all that was their job. Wow. It's like, it's like when they close down any factory, any job, it's like, whoa, this sucks. Yeah.
Why is Billy scared of spiders?
'Cause they're stupid. And they're my son.
I read somewhere where there was episodes of Zim that were postponed, or maybe because why they canceled the series because of 9/11.
No, it wasn't that. It was this, and I always remind people of this because, a lot of time has gone by. But we premiered in 2011, in March 2011. And we were a show about an alien bent on the destruction of the Earth. That was the main plot line of that. Granted, a lot of people misunderstood our show. That's all they heard or they saw. Like, we've had InvaderCon conventions and people think that, all these freaky goths and all this stuff are going to show. Our entire fan base are great people like you with families and kids we've been misunderstood. Well, the same thing happened with this show. When 9/11 happened, it was a horrible, devastating time where none of us wanted to see any kind of that stuff. And so our stuff was kind of that. Even though we changed it, it was just a little too manic at that time.
They should have just done a spin-off.
Yeah, well, they should have come back to it. But I don't know. Nickelodeon was good to me. They always were. They always have been. Nickelodeon's a good place. It just was, the wrong show at the wrong time. Yeah.
Do you see the show as more successful on Cartoon Network because, Cartoon Network know how to handle their adult audience better than Nickelodeon?
I just think that Cartoon Network just never skewed to younger audiences. They didn't. I mean, if you think about it, Nickelodeon made a huge hit with Rugrats, and that's like little babies. So that was their audience, and that was making them money and making them successful. Cartoon Network just said, hey, we're just going to put on shows that we like, and let the audience find it. So I can't fault anyone, It is a business. It's a business, Originally, TV was created to sell soap. So I had soap operas. So, yes.
I told you.
Illuminati. Yes.
Has your theater training influenced what you do in voice acting?
Absolutely. Just the use of my voice so that I don't lose it and that I find a place for it. That's theater training. The way I create my characters is the same way I approach on-camera work or stage work. It doesn't change. It's about playing pretend. And that's what I always remember. You know, a lot of people practice the words. I don't. I practice the situation. What's the situation I'm in? And then I imagine it, and that's how I play. That's the same way I do it on stage. Where are we at? Is it time?
We're a couple of minutes over.
We're a couple minutes over. One last question. Yes.
Sorry, my sister really loves that line, the I jab you good, you filthy bug. Would you please say it for her?
Billy says what?
I jab you good, you filthy bug.
Yes. I jab you good, you filthy bug. Thank you, everybody.